Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to cover steps 2 and 3 of my 3-step trauma-informed approach to overcoming chronic pain and medically unexplained symptoms. That will be repairing your mind-body connection and brain retraining strategies. Remember in the first video, we talked about the neurobiological effects of trauma and attachment problems and dissociation, a separation that develops between your mind and body, wherein you develop a strong part to protect your weak part in response to childhood trauma and neglect. This separation is also rooted in some of those biochemical changes we talked about, cortisol fluctuations, decreased oxytocin, and so on. So one of the effects of this separation is to disrupt the flow of information between your mind and your body. In other words, instead of being a living, evolving psychobiological system, your nervous system operates in a kind of frozen, compartmentalized state, which blocks your ability to integrate new learning, particularly sensory emotional. Repairing your mind-body connection restores your nervous system's ability to transfer information and learn from new experience. As the work of people like John Sarno and Howard Schubiner illustrates, just repairing your mind-body connection can lead to an immediate reduction in bodily tension and pain. However, for people whose pain is a product of a combination of early childhood trauma or neglect and injury or illness, additional brain training is usually necessary. Brain retraining can help rebalance your cortisol levels and the negative effects of too much or too little cortisol on your energy levels and your body's ability to self-soothe and the patterns of neural firing that maintain pain. But its effects are going to be limited unless you address the mind-body disconnection or dissociation caused by childhood trauma and attachment problems. This attachment repair, mind-body integration aspect is not often mentioned in brain-based approaches to chronic pain. So let's look at these steps. Number 1, repairing your mind-body connection. I'm going to start by saying that self-connection is the number 1 condition for healing. Self-connection is what got lost if you didn't receive that secure attachment in early childhood and had to rely on external non-human activities and stimuli to self-soothe, workaholism, sex, drugs, and so on. But there's another effect of that, and it has to do with the integration of your personality. Instead of developing into a whole integrated person, you would have had to split off into different parts that cope with different aspects of life. For example, one part that appears strong and in control, and another part that holds your feelings of vulnerability, and so on. So what you think of as yourself is actually a collection of entities, parts or ego states as psychologists call them, which perform different functions: work, social, crisis management, and so on. And these parts have evolved to help you survive, even addictive or angry parts. There are no bad parts. According to Richard Schwartz, the founder of internal family systems, which is a very popular method for working with parts, these parts are actually not the real you. They're what psychologists call defense mechanisms. So separate to these parts, there is a core you whose purpose is living, loving, and learning to fulfill its potential through a healthy relationship with the self and others. But the parts and the self are disconnected. One moment you feel strong and in control, and then you're confronted with a situation, for example, that triggers feelings of vulnerability or inadequacy, and suddenly you turn into an anxious, shame-filled human being. So there's dissociation. Your strong part and your child part are actually never in the same room at the same time. Getting back to your core self, your true self or core self is the you that knows how to heal and be present in the most loving and healthy way. Unlike defense mechanisms or dissociated ego states, it's not out to impress anyone, hide anything, take care of vulnerable emotions, or deal with this or that crisis. Your true self is a peaceful, loving, here and now state which exists simply to learn, love, and live all that life has to offer. Schwartz describes the true self in terms of 8 C's: curiosity, calmness, clarity, connectedness, confidence, courage, creativity, and compassion. What a great way to live. Your true self is your most authentic self. It knows what you need to thrive rather than just survive. So how do you connect with your true self? First of all, you have to identify, accept, and make peace with all your different parts, including those parts you might not like or feel ashamed about. There are many ways of doing this depending on how complex your part system is, but here's a simple way to start. Bring to mind a feeling or tendency that you feel ashamed ashamed about and usually avoid. Try just making a bit of space for that scared or shameful part and notice where you feel it in your body. Imagine that that part represents a younger self, a younger part of you. And what age would that part be? And where is that child? And what are they doing? What are they feeling? Is there anyone with them? And now, in some way, let that child know that you're there and that you're willing to start caring for that part of yourself just by your presence and the act of paying attention to that part as you're doing now. Because the most important thing that children need is attention. It's an act of love to pay attention to someone or something that you care about. So as you do this, you should notice a kind of warm, soft feeling down the center of your chest, or maybe feelings of lightness, some sort of shift in your energy levels, or feelings of calmness. This is a sign that you are integrating. You can find an extended version of this exercise on my anxiety release app called Healing Anxiety. But reconnecting with your inner parts involves repairing the disconnection between mind and body that happened as a child, leading to enhanced information flow between mind and body and better healing. So moving now to some brain retraining exercises. Brain-based strategies are designed to change the patterns of brain activity, neural firing, fight-flight versus reward system balance, communication between different brain structures, neurotransmitter levels, and so on, that maintain pain. I guess you've heard of neuroplasticity, the discovery that your brain can always rewire itself under the right conditions. So just before we get to the brain training strategies, a couple of points to note. One is that brain-based strategies target the three different regions of the brain that maintain pain: the brain stem, the limbic system, and the frontal cortex. Information flows between these regions in two primary directions: bottom up, that's body and brain stem, to frontal cortex, and top down, from your frontal cortex to your brainstem and your body. Think of bottom up as sensory or emotional inputs such as touch, sound, light, and top down as cognitive inputs, thoughts, imagery, even memories. So a top down strategy would be something like mindfulness or memories of feeling safe or healthy or strong using your imagination, whereas a bottom up strategy would be something like bilateral stimulation or hot or cold stimulus. And bottom up and top down strategies make different use of neurotransmitters. While both can be helpful, bottom up information, sensory stimulation, has a greater impact on the brain than top-down or thoughts. For example, what helps more? Telling yourself it doesn't hurt, top-down, or rubbing that stubbed shin, bottom-up. Bottom-up strategies are more effective because they're like arrows going straight into the areas of the brain that generate the sensory, emotional, and affective components of pain. That's the brain stem and the limbic system. However, as with everything to do with the brain, what you do with one part affects another. Your thoughts do affect your feelings, and your feelings affect your thoughts. It's just that your feelings affect your thoughts more strongly than the other way around, just because of the way your brain evolved. Having said that, everything works together in the brain. A happy memory can generate a happy feeling and vice versa. Again, it's just a matter of weight. So here's a list of top-down and bottom-up brain training strategies. Top-down strategies are good for managing the pain in the short term. Meditation, for example, can take a bit of the sting out of pain by mentally distancing yourself from it. Imagery can allow you to manipulate the pain by imagining pain-ameliorating processes, such as a healing light, a pain container, an image of the pain shrinking, and things like that. Let's try that. I'm going to share with you a little exercise called antidote imagery. So I'd like you to begin by just observing any discomfort or tension that you might be feeling right now in a non-judgmental, curious way. Noticing where you feel it in your body and what it feels like. Is it hot or cold? Is it pulsing, stabbing, throbbing, aching, or something else? If it had a color, what color would it be? If it had a shape, what shape would it be? And how big is it? And what's it like? What does it remind you of? And once you have a mental image of the discomfort in terms of its component parts, put that aside for a moment and imagine the opposite of that, a reversal agent, something that could neutralize that discomfort with opposite but equally healing qualities. Your own very special healing resource that can counteract your discomfort in just the right way. Don't think about it too much, just let it come to you however it comes, whatever size, shape, color, or image you get, and feeling that antidote imagery take shape in your mind now. What it feels like, what it looks like, how it can work to help heal that discomfort. Noticing the changes in your body as that antidote imagery does what your body needs it to do without you really having to think about it too much or make any great effort. Little changes that can grow into an increasing sense of comfort, spreading out, reversing the discomfort that's been bothering you, replacing imbalance with balance, disharmony with harmony, naturally, effortlessly. In fact, the less you try, the easier it happens. Just noticing and just letting those changes happen. How natural, how effortless. Finding your way, rediscovering that ability to create your own reality, letting that part of your mind take care of things, finding what you need in just the right way, your own comfortable way, open to the myriad of different possibilities. Your mind and your body starting to work together so closely now. Pleased that you're discovering something of tremendous importance for yourself, a resource that you can use again and again to find that healing comfort and relief that you need, and taking all the time that you need, because there's no time like the present to give yourself the gift of feeling better. And then when you're ready, in your own time and your own comfortable way, you can return to normal consciousness, bringing with you those new learnings, drifting back now, just finishing up with 1 or 2 nice deep breaths, and then taking a moment to reflect on what you've experienced and what you've learned about your ability to cope with whatever it was you chose to work on. So that was a top-down strategy, since it relies on imagination. Now let's try a bottom-up strategy, which comes from EMDR. As mentioned earlier, a key brain system involved in pain is the fight-flight response. Imagine if you could hijack your fight-flight response and reprogram it. Literally take a fear response and transform it into a relaxation response. Well, you can. It involves harnessing 2 of your brain's main functions, attention and memory. So dual focus bilateral stimulation, which is a EMDR process, involves firstly activating the pain or trauma memory, and with it probably the fight-flight response, and then initiating a bilateral stimulation and focusing on that. Bilateral stimulation is any novel bilateral sensory input, visual, auditory, or tactile. So whenever your brain detects novel sensory input, your brain actually enters a low-level fight-flight state. The mechanism by which your brain does this is called the orienting response. It's like, hey, that's interesting. In fact, that's more interesting than the pain I'm feeling right now. I better check it out. After sometimes as little as 60 seconds, the body relaxes as the brain realizes that whatever it is, it's not a threat. And this all happens automatically. An important part of this is sensory tracking. That is, paying attention to how your body responds to the bilateral stimulation and noticing any sensory changes that happen in response to that. And this is what helps to change the pain memory. So let's have a little exercise with this now. I'd like you to take a moment to clear your mind of any other thoughts or distractions and notice any pain, tension, or discomfort that you might be experiencing right now, and where it is in your body, the sensations that make up that feeling, any thoughts you might be having with it or about it, and hold that. Now I'm going to initiate some bilateral stimulation, and when that starts, I just want you to let your attention go with that and let whatever happens happen. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Just paying attention and just noticing. If the problem you chose to work on wasn't anything too great, you should notice some decrease in that pain, tension, or discomfort. Or possibly that it seems more distant, less important somehow. You may also notice feeling more relaxed, lighter, and more present. If it doesn't feel like anything changed, make sure that you are focusing on the bilateral stimulation and not thinking of other things or worrying about whether or not you are doing it right. Maybe try again, paying really close attention to the bilateral stimulation and what happens in your body. So anyway, regardless, congratulations. You have just taken the first step for learning how to harness your sensory system to change your brain, change your pain. You can find most of the rest of these exercises and more on my Overcoming Pain app. A few additional resources for repairing your mind-body reconnection, a book called No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz, or if you're a therapist, Easy Ego State Interventions by Robin Shapiro. For brain retraining, there's my Overcoming Pain app, there's my Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain book, and also John Sarno's classic, The Mind-Body Prescription.